Well, hello, and welcome back to another video. It's me, your boy, Ben, and I'm coming at you with another books I've read in one sitting video, which I'm really excited about filming because can I just saying that it's only been recently that I read a book in one sitting again, but there's a lot of books in the past, back in the day when I actually read like lots of books and I could actually read, and the reading slump that I'm currently in wasn't destroying my life, and I want to talk about those too. So yeah, sit back and enjoy. This is going to be a video about talking about books I've read in one sitting and why, and maybe a little backstory behind it as well, because I always love like finding out about when people bought books, what they were doing, like where they were, why and how they facilitated reading that one book in one sitting, because it is normally about your location, mindset and the book you're reading. So shall we just get on with it? I think we shall. The first two books I'm going to be talking about is Fairy Guardian and The Fairy Prince, which I also want to say this video is not going to be filmed without these because this is a sponsored video. Rachel Morgan kindly has sponsored me so I can let you know that this book here, Fairy Prince, is free to download right now on all ebook sites, so check that out. I will leave the link down below. But yeah, I read these two books in one sitting. Now, I read The Fairy Guardian and The Fairy Prince way back in the day, between the time when I went to Scotland with Sasha, and I remember so vividly reading the Fairy Guardian on the last day of Scotland when we didn't really have much to do. We were staying in this kind of Airbnb hotel vibe thing on the bridge of Isle of Skye, basically right next to it, and we didn't have much to do. We were really exhausted from our travels and we both decided just to take a reading day, and I remember devouring The Fairy Guardian literally in one sitting. It was such an incredible experience to read it literally in the cold like time of Scotland in June, and it was just really wicked to read. Now, if you don't know, this series is an urban fantasy about fae, so we're flipping between the modern world and the fae world, and there's magic and romance and basically a lot of courtly intrigue between the different courts of fae. It's a super duper well loved series already. Like in the indie world it's humongous, so I know those who are watching me now that know about the indie world will also have known about these books. But they've actually also got a makeover, so not only is this book on free for download, these are the two new covers. Doosh. The entire series has got a cover revamp and I absolutely love the series. But yeah, The Fairy Prince I remember reading when I was in Greece, and I absolutely devoured this book in one day on the beach. In fact, you'll see a common theme soon coming up. But like I said, like being in a location, you know, having the time to just sit down and read and not do anything else is why I was able to read these in one sitting, being in Scotland, being in Greece. So yeah, two fantastic books, and they are like available now, and this one is free to download, so go and get your free copies whilst you can. Honestly, you don't want to miss it. Like, don't just miss up on this free download. And yeah, thank you Rachel for making this video possible. Sending all my love to you, hun. But yeah, obsessed. And what I love most about this series, and it very much inspires me with my own writing, is that it's a long series but broken up into trilogy. So the first three books follows characters, the next three books follows different characters in a different generation, and so on and so forth. And it's something I'm doing with my Dragori series as well. I have the trilogy and I'm now writing a new trilogy set 20 years in the future. So yeah, massive props to Rachel again for that, because she's very inspiring, let me tell you. I'll leave the necessary links down below. Now, of course, the next book you've already seen in the thumbnail, and that is Empire of Storms. And yes, I read this book in one sitting. This beast of a book I read in one sitting. I was in Amsterdam with my boyfriend. It was the second leg of, oh no, the third and final leg of our travelling trip, and we were going around the bookshops every single day. Like, I know that might not be what you do in Amsterdam, but it's what we did in Amsterdam. Every single day we went to the American Book Centre, we went to Waterstones, and then we went to Smelter. They're like bookshop in Amsterdam, like I butcher the name every time. And one day, it was 3 days before the release of Empire of Storms, I walked into the bookstore and there it was on the shelf, and I picked it up and bought it. I know that's bad. I know, please don't like come for me. Listen, if you're going to see Empire of Storms in a bookshop early, you're not going to pass it up. And I'm just being real with you. So yeah, I bought it and I went back to the hotel, and like I said, we weren't really doing much apart from the bookshops and going into Amsterdam and seeing the sights. That I went back to the hotel, we went and bought loads of food from the supermarket, which was right over from our hotel, and we literally just copped up all day in the room and just chilled, and Harry did his thing watching YouTube videos or whatever, and I read the entirety of this beast. Now, I had the English edition, not this American edition, but this is the one I wanted to pick out because it's such a cute and amazing cover. So yeah, I read this entire book in one sitting. I feel like it was a mistake because it did make me forget everything, but it's still, I read it in one sitting, which I think is pretty like incredible considering how big this book is. It's like, what, 700 pages? I mean, of course, it's got nothing on The Kingdom of Ash, which is sat right over there on my desk. Triggered. But yes, I read this in one sitting and I was in Amsterdam, and that is the story behind that one. Yeah, love it. Next is the one which I read recently, and that is Raven Dock by Sarah Cladwell. This is book one in the Dark Coven series. I read this in one sitting because of the size, and I just said to myself, today I'm having a reading day. Ben, you are in a really bad reading slump. You need to read, just sit down and read a book. So I did, and I read Raven Dock, and this is a witchy read which was perfect for this kind of October month, and it is about a girl whose family dies. She has to go and move with her aunt, like in a place called Raven Dock, which is almost like a kind of walled off retreat, and weird things are going on, and when she finds out that she is actually a witch, she kind of has to choose between that magic and escaping escaping, and you've got to read to find out why she wants to escape. So yeah, Raven Dock was a really, really fun read, and I just could read it so quickly. Like, I just sped through it. I found the characters really easy to connect to, and yeah, being such a short book, it was just quite simple to get into. And I also liked the twist on witchcraft. It wasn't your kind of modern, I'm a witch. It was very much almost like, I had almost like a horror aspect to it, which I really enjoyed. It was a bit creepy and it was a bit malicious, and things were going on that you didn't really understand. And then everything came full circle, and I was like, ding, 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 loving it. So yeah, Raven Dock. You know, I'm not gonna lie, read this in one sitting. I mean, again, the size helped. It is only 177 pages, but, you know, bish bash bosh done. Quick as you can say anything. So I know that I read this big book, and this is called Defiant Air, which is book 2 to The Tethered Mage by Melissa Carso, and I read this in one sitting on the beach in a sun lounger with the Greek sun blessing me from above, and the Greek sands tickling at my toes, and the Greek sea lulling me into a sense of calm. And I read this entire book. It helps that this book is so good. It's like an adult fiction fantasy, but it has the kind of like Court of Mist and Fury vibes. No, which one's the second one? Is it Mist and Fury? She can't remember. Yeah, a Court of Mist and Fury vibes, in the sense that there's like these. So in here, it just is filled with like these witch kings and witch lords, sorry, and I was obsessed with the witch lords and the romance in this, and I just generally could not put it down. And this book is a beast. It is a beast, and it's like a Bible, so it's about 500 pages long, 520 pages long, and it was absolutely fantastic. It's worth getting through the first one, which is really good, but it wasn't my favourite. It was worth getting through that one, and again, I most probably wouldn't have read this one after the first one, if I'm honest. Like, I enjoyed the first one, but it was very politically heavy, and I just thought, but I had this with me in Greece, and I didn't have many other things to read. And I picked it up and was like ridiculously pleasantly surprised, and I think the overwhelming majority of people really like the second book too. So the way the second book went, I can't wait for the final book. I really, really cannot wait for the final book. I think it comes out in January. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, I read this in one sitting, guys. It's the Witch Lords. I could read this book over and over again for the Witch Lords. I mean, drool, 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 stand, drool, fire, hot, fire, fire, drool. Thanks. So yeah, one sitting, a beast. Now this one has a bit more of a special story, and it's the last one I'm talking about, and that is Saving Death by Rosie Endine, or L.R. Endine. This comes out November 5th, and it is one of the books I'm publishing with my publishing company. Now, for me to publish a book with my company, I have to read submissions, and it is me that reads submissions. And I remember reading this one, which was called a different name at the time, and just devouring it in one sitting. I was in Costa, where I live in Newbury, and I just sat down and read the whole thing. It was absolutely unreal. It was dark and gothic and romantic. This is a new take on Grim Reapers, which is something I don't really see in the YA world. It is being kind of compared to The Fallen, but like better, with Grim Reapers and witches in. Oh, Christine, why are you calling me? I'm filming a video. Say hello.
Oh, hello.
Say bye-bye.
Bye.
I'll call you back in a minute.
Whatever.
Bye. So like I said, actually Christine has a copy of this, but yeah, I read this in one sitting. It's this gothic take on Grim Reapers and romance, and it's set in an English town, so it's kind of got that moody gothic vibe to it, which is really, really wicked. And Rosie's a really, really great author, and her book, like I said, coming out November 5th. I'll link everything down below. But it was just a ridiculously heart-pounding, gothic, twisty read with a really lovely romance about a girl dealing with the kind of grief of losing her mother, and she meets a boy and is thrown into kind of a dark world, and she kind of almost brings a light to it, but stuff happens and it's wicked. So yeah, I read this in one sitting. It's a big book. It's over 300 pages, but I just remember devouring it and loving it, and yeah, can't wait to read the second book. Like, it's sat in my inbox. I'm getting to it. So good. So there you have it. They're all the books I'm talking about in this. I read books in one sitting, but it's been so long since I've really done that because I'm a really bad reader and I'm in a reading slump, and we're not going to pretend that I read books because I don't just read them. But yes. A massive shout out again to Rachel Morgan for sponsoring, so thank you so much, and don't forget to get your copies for free. I've actually read these books. I can vouch for them being amazing. I would not be sponsoring this video if I did not think these books are amazing, so go and check these out. And if you want to read any more of these books, I'll leave them all linked down below and you can all check them out. So yeah, enjoy! Bye guys! Bye bye!